I got Tina. I got Jim.
There we go.
I had Alan a minute ago, but he and I both went blank at the same time. I just called up Ryan, and he was on, but he had nobody with him. So he's trying to put it together. And I think this is what happened. He keyed it back up and we're gone.
Ed, when I tried to get on, it said that the host had another meeting in progress.
Yeah. And I think that was when he went on, I bet he shut us off. And so he's coming back on.
Yeah.
That's what it said on my end too. Can you guys see me?
Yeah.
Oh,
Great.
good. I was worried for a moment.
Oh no, we're doing good. We're doing
Okay,
good.
I'm gonna go get my coffee.
How are you doing, Ed?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's a very nice winter day here. We got overcast, but some blue skies. And yeah, it's very nice. It's calmed down a bit. In fact, I'm going to open up the shades. Hey, Jovan.
Hi, sorry, it took me a while. I keep losing the login stuff.
Yeah, it happened to everybody.
Oh, well, that's good. Thank you, Ryan.
And hello, Alan.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good. And there's Ryan.
All right. Hello.
Yeah, and Jim is just a, looks like a oil painting on the wall.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
went to get coffee.
Ah, you bring me one too, Jim, please?
It's close enough.
I know, I can walk across the street and get it.
Okay.
I like the new do, Ryan.
Oh, thanks. My wife every now and then decides I need to be cleaned up.
Hey, Ryan, why don't you show him the old picture?
Oh, boy. We really going there?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's his fire department picture.
Yeah, David Russell, his family was still going through some of his photographs because he was our photographer for years for the fire department. And so I pulled a couple of special ones aside.
Yeah, I like my fire department picture because I'm so much younger. I look really good. Not like I do now.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
like when that one got replaced where I had one with shorter hair. I like that, the longer hair photos.
No, it's
Mine
too
still
bad.
is- Where did Jim go?
To get coffee.
I know, but his picture's gone now.
Yeah. He's down there somewhere. No.
I think perhaps his computer dumped him. He'll have to re-log on.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's pretty facile with a computer, though. It won't take long.
Yeah, unlike myself. I think I have to do something about the lighting in my room. I'm so much darker than everybody else.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I only have to move a little way and then I go light, then I go
I
dark.
don't know. All of you are fine. That doesn't help. Ah, that's better.
Better. Yeah.
Close the shade, turn the light on. I should orient the computer in a different way. Get that. There.
Oh, there's a new icon I've never seen, a raised hand. I've never seen that on Zoom before.
I think that's what we're supposed to be using when you want to say something instead of going like that. I feel we should wait for Jim because he was here.
There he is.
There he is.
Told you so.
Yeah. No, he was drinking coffee is what it was.
It's late for coffee. You should be on something else by now.
Sorry about that.
Well, we don't know what's in the cup. He
That's
said it was.
exactly what I was thinking.
Actually,
But you said it.
our house has a tricky GFS or ground fault interrupter, whatever that thing is. And when I put this in the microwave, it popped the circuit for the internet. So sorry. Took me a minute. I'm back.
Okay, I assume this is all we're gonna get. Donna's not here. Who else is missing? We're missing a few people. Well, I'll tell you, let's get going and we will do some house business first. And then we'll get on to the other things as people come in. First thing is call to order and then approval of the agenda. Anybody have any problem with the agenda?
Nope.
Okay, public comment. We don't have any public that's not part of us. Approval of minutes. And so the first one that we have is
And
October.
we're gonna have to hold off on approval of minutes. Jim Sullivan has just sent me, it just came through a minute ago, a revised version of the December minutes.
Right.
And Jim Jackson has also made a couple of corrections. So what you guys have in front of you is not exactly what we're voting to approve. So either we put it off another month, or I'm gonna need a few minutes more to make these corrections and distribute them to everyone.
No, I'd rather put it off. I don't think there's any problem with us having a batch of them to do at one time. So we'll wait.
Okay, so if we can postpone that item till next meeting, I would feel better.
I have no problem with that. The only thing I'm going to be doing is that I am using the December 1st minutes as kind of where we left off. So if that's part of the thing that's wrong, let me know. But I think it brings us back to what we were doing.
There was a minor change to the December minutes that I made. I don't know about Jim Jackson, but it was where I forgot to finish my thought of listening.
Okay.
There was a couple, I mean, they're sort of small. They're some just little grammatical corrections,
Yeah.
but you know, there's a few of them.
Okay.
So it's easier to just postpone this item.
That's what we'll do. Okay, so we'll go on to new business. So
What
this
about,
is-
there's no public comment? There's no public other than us, I guess.
I guess that's it. Yeah. Could they be in? We don't see them? If someone was,
I see 7 total participants.
right. So there would just be a blank box or something like this. It would be somewhat lit. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Okay, so this is the part where we're discussion of ideas related to groundwater management. It's a broad category because we don't expect to do any real action. We want to just talk about these things. And I want to bring this back to some of the questions that we started off on. These are the ones that we've been kicking around for a bit, and some of them we're not going to be able to come to any kind of a conclusion on, but some of them we have been talking about these. And the first one was, I believe these were questions that were brought up by either Otto or others. So if I'm skipping anybody's, we'll bring it up. We will not skip. We will talk about it. And this was the talk. This was the part about saving water, and what are we going to do with when you try to bank water? Do we have a position on that? Is this something that we believe is going to help, or is this something that has been? Do you know what I'm talking about? We're talking about using more in the wintertime. If these things happen, what do you do with it? Is already, the new ordinance has already allowed us to do certain things when there's 120%.
Right.
And I think the question is that good enough? Or do we want to up that or make it better for people to be able to do it? What are our thoughts on that?
Well, I'll start it off.
Please.
I don't think it would be in our best interest to up it more than that 120%, based on just the fact that we do have a limited supply, and it's, kind of a best guess as to how things in the future will be. So I think it's a good idea to bank water, if you have that ability, for storage, individually, based on your allotment, that's just, good accounting for you as a homeowner to be able to, potentially use that water for, when, your well is not able to produce. So, that kind of makes sense. But once you start trying to pump more, than what a hydro study has shown, for those that have hydro studies, I think that kind of gets into kind of dangerous territory for water resources, for at least the storage and availability. So,
Yep. Any other
Right.
thoughts on that?
Well, my only thought is, winter is a good time to try and store water and top off your tank, or if you want to buy a tank to fill it up. But it seems like, I'm coming from a place that I've never gotten close to my allotment.
Right.
So I would think, well, you max out your allotment in the winter when the groundwater recharge is at its greatest. So that's when you, fill your storage tanks, do projects that take a lot of water or something.
Right.
But as far as exceeding the allotment, most of the allotments, as we were going over in the last meeting, were never proven. They were just given according to the standards. And so with what you brought up last meeting, Ed, and thinking about that more, and Ryan's few examples of a few properties, it's scary to start going over allotments,
Yep.
especially for allotments that were given and aren't really known.
Right.
For example, I noticed that the Shell building has a for sale sign on it, and I can understand why he's thinking of selling it. It's been a great moneymaker for him for years with all the rentals in it, but rentals have been more difficult with this. But that building, I don't think ever did a hydro study. It was granted all this water, and that one property has, or had, one bakery, one restaurant, and one coffee shop, all pretty high water users.
Mm-hmm.
And it pretty much was given to that property at some point in some way. And now I'm seeing a dilemma of someone buying that property and having all that water and saying, well, I've got all this water, I'm going to just open up the thing and make a big, huge restaurant and, stay within this total allotment I have. So I guess it's kind of getting off track here, but it's segueing into the idea of that the allotment does not go with a property if it's sold, that it's reassessed or something.
Yeah.
I see a potential for problems.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
so much of the water allotments have been given based on current and present use. And as Ed pointed out last time,
Okay,
people
we'll
can
get
change
into
them.
that one. We'll get
Yeah.
into that one. This one is mainly just banking water.
Yes, and so,
Yeah.
sorry, I went off track, but yeah, I think, you know, if it's already in the books saying you can go over by that 20% or whatever, I'm not going to argue that. I'm just saying my opinion is that it's not a good idea to expand on allotments.
Okay. Anybody else have any other thoughts on changing that particular part or suggesting that we change that to the board? No?
No, and I mean, it'd be interesting to see if anybody actually takes advantage of it, but and see what happens. But other than that, no.
Yeah.
Well, and it seems like the area up in our neck of the woods, Al and I and Jovan would be the folks that would most want to do that, with larger lots, with gardens and that type of thing. I mean, there seems to be a real problem with, even during wet years, to be able to get their allotments to begin with. From what I'm hearing from Otto and the areas that he lived or where he's at. So again, I don't know. It seems like it would be difficult for them to really go above their allotments sometimes.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe we want to think about only limiting that 120% to those that have done the hydro study.
Jim, just to jump in here, to make sure we're all on the same page, it's what the extra pumping is if we have 120%
Right.
of normal rainfall. It's not
Right.
120% of your allotment. If 120% of average rainfall or normal rainfall in the months of October, November, and December, you're
Right.
allowed to take double your allotment in the months of January, February, and March.
Yeah. Okay.
As long
Yep.
as everyone's clear, that's what
Yep.
the ordinance says.
Yeah.
Dave.
Well,
Thank
it's
you.
definitely not happening this year.
Don't have to worry about that.
Well,
Okay.
and thanks, Brian, for correcting me for sure. But that even points to more concerns. 100, twice as much. Yikes! That's a lot. So yeah, that might be something to think about. Is only, well, I don't know. I'll stop there.
I think that I guess this discussion was about someone who wanted to put some more water in a bank, a pond or something like this. I think that at 200 gallons a day is your limit, your allotment. And so if you doubled it, you'd be throwing another 200. It's going to cost you a lot of money to store that kind of money. So not many people are going to be able to do this. So I think it's pretty restrictive. I wouldn't be able to put that many tanks in my yard, and certainly not going to have a pond. Okay,
Right.
so I think basically what we're going to do is we're going to leave it as is.
Oh,
That's
Chris.
our suggestion.
Or Tina.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. One other resource property owners can take advantage of is what the state of California passed in 2012 is the Rainwater Catchment Act. So they're able to catch any water coming off their rooftops. There's actually colleagues in the Napa County area that are working with, I don't know if you're aware of Professor David Sedlak at UC Berkeley. He's written a fantastic book called Water 4.0. I'd highly recommend it. It's so good, I've given it as gifts. But anyway, my same colleagues are working with him on trying to develop an amendment to that act so that water can be used for potable water. So anyway, that's just one resource. I think people, everything has to be, done right. You don't want to take it off roofs that are made out of whatchamacall,
Bird poop.
Oh, yeah.
composition.
Yeah.
That would not be healthy at all. But anyway, so something to remember. We can capture the rain coming off our roofs.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to go on to the next one because I think we're in agreement on that one. Question 2 is, could the surplus or excess water be gifted, sold, or otherwise? And I think that just to make sure that what we're talking about, I think that there was a discussion about actually taking it from this district and taking it out of this district, which I believe is not a good thing. But I do believe there was the other part that was basically talking about throwing a hose across the fence and giving your neighbor water when they are out, you still have some. I don't think that's something that the district is going to get involved in, as long as you stay within your allotment.
Yeah.
How you do deal with your water is how you deal with your water. I think that,
and I don't think we want to promote it only because of the potential health issues of just transporting it via a hose. That's probably one of the I would not suggest that to begin with for health reasons. But if it's done, it's done, I guess. I mean, if they do it, but I don't think it's something that we as MCCSD would want to promote that or even really suggest it.
I think the difference would be, would we have a position of no on it? And I think it would be, that would be between the neighbors, I would think. But I agree, you probably wouldn't want to have that as the MCCSD's guidelines.
Right.
How to give water through a hose.
Right. Because the health department, I'm sure the health department have something to say about that as well. So.
Yeah. Well, they don't. What they should and what they do.
They should.
I would like to inform you now, as far as how that works, is that for the last 5 years, a particular water tower in town had a fire hose hanging down, and that was how the water truck filled that water tank. And now it is plumbed properly with a valve and a more of a secure thing that's not flapping in the wind. Yeah, and so I didn't drink the water, so
Yeah.
But I think that people have to do what they have to do sometimes. And yeah. Any other questions on that? Any other thoughts on that one?
No.
We're good. Okay. Question made, please me. Okay, the cost of the hydrological studies. The only thing I can think of is that we can suggest to the board of directors that they do something like due diligence to look for a way to stay within the scientific boundaries and still come up somewhat less expensive for our citizens. Because it is what started off as $6,000 or $7,000 is now $20,000-$25,000. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other thoughts on that one?
Well, I do. I've been thinking, given California's hydrologic changes, and that I think that is an area of discipline that may become more and more competitive.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
So I wouldn't doubt if those just came down naturally on their own a bit, but could be surprised.
Yeah.
Do you think there's anything that the board of directors could do to solicit other participants?
It would be interesting to just maybe do a survey if that would be something geotech firms would be willing to do, is just to give us ballpark numbers as far as how much it costs, and that way maybe we could get a range of what's out there, and just maybe that awareness for these geotech firms that there potentially is a market, and that type of service for folks. And I don't know, that's a hard one for sure.
So Ryan, do the board go out, or do you guys go out and ask for a requote every so often, or is it something that's just up to the homeowner?
It's really
You
up.
provide a list, but
We provide a list of known, approved, licensed, experienced hydrological engineers, and then they hire who they think
Yeah.
best and would like to do the study.
there's no quote mechanism that the board can use to go and get a requote every
Well, it's,
whatever.
the board's not hiring them, the home.
Yeah, no, that's what I guess I'm asking. Yeah. That's the only thing I can think of if it is getting competitive. I mean, people will sit just charging what they've always charged until somebody comes along and provides some competition, which you normally do by going out every couple of years and re-quoting a contract, as you undoubtedly know, but it doesn't sound like we're in that situation.
I was just thinking this might be a good question for Professor Sedlak at UC Berkeley, since he's teaching these people, young students. He might have.
That was my thought, Tina, is it a possibility that we could have a university project as an ongoing thing, that as their class comes up, we have a person who signs up, and since our studies are done mandated by a certain time frame, if we had one that was applied for, we could contact the university and see if at that time they have a graduate student or whatever that might be that's working in California hydrology, and we could connect them. And again, that would be all that we're doing. We're not hiring them, and it would be under someone else's hydrological papers, the professor. So maybe the board could look into something like that.
I had a question about this too. I just wonder if perhaps in the field there's been a development of digital equipment that cuts down on the man hours involved in monitoring things. In other words, if an engineer, there isn't. If an engineer came up, and let's say he arranged for 5 studies at once.
Be back in a minute.
And could monitor what was going on, from some kind of data bank, rather than, being personally there. It might cut down on the cost in some way. The other thing that was intriguing, I thought, in the last meeting, actually, Jovan told a story of how you got involved yourself in doing this. So if there's some way, maybe coupled with digital oversight, to have the owner, landowner, or friends, or whoever, help out with these things.
Right.
Having been involved in a couple of other engineering things where, let's say, a concrete pour is monitored over the course of a week, that's an astronomical amount of money.
Yeah.
For even an assistant engineer to come and hang out and stay in a hotel. It gets kind of silly.
Yeah, and I've actually performed hydro studies, and the real the money involved really is for the professional licensed person to sign off on it, and setting it up is the other portion. Being able to put there's basically just probes that you put into wells that are tied to a box that record the numbers, and it really is a pretty automated thing until you're downloading the data, and so that it really isn't something a homeowner would have too much involvement to be able to really knock down the price. So it's more in the design of it, so that you're getting the readings at the correct spots, and if they have to drill a well, at the property boundary, that's another cost that you really can't, um, put off to someone else. So it really does come down to the professional services and trying to get, the best price from them. It's unfortunate, but true.
Yeah, boy, things have really changed since 1990 when I did mine, because there wasn't a lot of digital equipment. It was basically a pump, and then the hydrologist who did all the calculations and wrote up the report and everything actually came and set up the equipment.
Yeah.
And it was a every half hour reading of, actual physical reading of the stuff. And so I was able to bring my costs down because he trusted me to make those numbers, and he'd come by and check up every few hours or,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And that helped. And another thing that helped, which is a thought for the district, because our time period for a hydro study is so short, if there are more than one hydro study to be done in that season, a hydrologist doing 2 or 3 studies in the same location at the same time
Mhm.
would be advantageous. Now, I suppose you wouldn't want to do that if they were contiguous properties or some such
Right.
thing, but I also had a deal because he was doing another hydro study in town, and I offered to do this, save money. And so he sat and camped out at the other one, and I read on mine, and I got a deal. So, it was nice. But the arranging for, if there's more than one person, is one way the district can do it, is just say, okay, you want to do a hydro study this year, so do you.
Yeah.
Try teaming up, use the same hydrological company, and go.
Right.
Okay, so those are some possibles that we can pass on to the board and see if they are interested in it. I'm very much interested in the university project.
Yeah.
We've done
Good
a lot of, I do believe Humboldt University still comes down and inspects our outflow.
Yeah.
So every once in a while, the Historic Preservation District was a project of another university. Of course, some people may not like that, but that's what it was. So let's pass those on. Any other thoughts on those? Okay. The next one is the one I brought up, and this is regarding Appendix C of the water use standards. It actually goes back to also what Jovan was talking about, and it talks about a water allotment that is given, not proven. Okay.
Right.
And basically, I did, everybody has the January 5th, 2001 handout. On the bottom of that page, it starts off with Oddfellows Hall.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. You can read it. These numbers are, the difference with these are that basically one use is an amount per square foot, amount of water per square foot. And then the other one is an amount of water for a particular use, not counting the square footage. Also, it is, these water allotments were brought to you by taking partially from the sewer bill, meaning how much water a particular use was expected to use. And so that's why the 0.15 gallons per square foot is there for galleries and for shops and for offices. And also, this was a philosophical, political, from the early days of trying to make sure that the sewer system was affordable. This may not sound fair or anything like this, but this was what was agreed upon, was that I'm sitting here now, the business district was going to be the beneficiary of a sewer system. The town in general would be, but the business district would not ever grow. I'm looking at Main Street. It could not grow until there was a sewer system involved. So the original concept was the businesses were going to pay for this as much as they possibly could. And their bill is always a lot more. So a shop is a shop, or an office is in that category. And they are paying a lot more than what they actually use as far as sewer capacity. Which is, I have no complaint about that. I have no complaint about that. What I'm working on is the idea that when that unproven water allotment is transferred from an office, gallery type use to an overnight accommodation, be it short-term or long-term apartments, it means a lot more water is going to be drawn out. These numbers are, to me, I use these two examples, these two buildings, where you have numerous offices, and they are there. You know, I'll use Oddfellows Hall right now. It's 2 stories. It's 3,000 square feet. It comes out to 450 gallons a day. And so right now it's empty. The guy comes in, buys it, and what he sees is 2 apartments. He sees 2 apartments and still a little shop downstairs, not a very big one, but a little shop left over. I am here to tell you, they could not do that with a water study. So what we'd be doing is we would be giving, our ordinance would be giving an allotment, a water use change that would harm their neighbors. Their neighbors are within, their wells are within 50 feet, 40 feet of each other. They would have an impact. It's the same thing with Oddfellows Hall. Oddfellows Hall is, the Lisbon House. It's a little bit bigger, and it would have its highest use. If you gave me that building and said you can do anything you want, I'd be living upstairs. It's a great view. It's wonderful. So you have 2 apartments upstairs. You have 2 apartments downstairs. You still have a little bit of a space for an office or something like this. It would never support it. I know that well. It's a good well. It's not that great. So there's, this is what I think that we should be looking at when we're talking about changing the ordinance to make sure that we are protecting the groundwater. And I have no problem if anybody wants to buy either one of those properties and do a test well and do a hydro test, and they can prove that, I'm all for it. Because what they did then is they just made sure their neighbors are protected from their use. So my main thing here is that these allotments that we have set up are fine. They may have some oddities that I could argue about, and how much sewage I use at the shop because of my square footage and all this. That's not the point. The point is that it shouldn't be transferable outside of office, gallery space, and a commercial type of that type. So that's my point. I tried to explain it last time. I think it's pretty clear here, and I want to know your thoughts. Is this worthy of kicking it up to the board of directors?
I believe it is.
Jovan,
Yeah.
what was the thinking? Well, both you and Ed. So was there a lot of discussion on this point when the ordinance was going through?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
Um,
there wasn't much about transferring.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and getting back to that allotment, your example on the Oddfellows Hall is the water use for that building historically has been nothing but a few toilet flushes, even if there's a lot, it's not going to approach near 50 gallons a day.
No.
You know, probably less than that. And so for someone to be able to move in there and do that kind of improvement is, it is a hole. It is a loophole that I believe needs to be addressed. I totally agree. You know, there has been a property that did that recently, right? And the old Golden Goose building.
Which one?
It's the Highlight Gallery now.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, a new person bought that. Well, so the history was that there was a owner and it had historically had 2 or 3 living units up above and a shop below.
Mhm.
A very mixed use kind of thing, very much like the Gallery Bookshop building, which has a few units upstairs.
Yep.
And the owners wanted to expand their business into the upstairs, and they just graciously let go of the water use that was given. Okay, it was never approved for those units. The owner that came in was wanting to do units, didn't want to do a hydro study, so he did a renovation, remodel, and created
Gallery.
what he tried to do was separate rentals that, and he called the building the Arcade because his idea was that 4 different retail establishments could be there, and like a mall, they could lock up their doors and the building would still stay open if they didn't want to stay open for the full you know, hours of operation, or if they didn't want to show up on Sunday or whatever. So he did his whole project and was unable to get multiple people to rent it. So he ended up offering a really good deal to the Highlight Gallery because where they were is an owner that just puts no money into their building. Absolutely not. It's like, take it or leave it. I'm taking as much money as I can out of this. And, you know, the roof leaked on some of the beautiful,
Yep.
you know, very expensive artworks. So they moved into the whole thing, and he had agreement with them that that lease, whatever, was only for so long, that, you know, he was going to raise the price if they were going to use the whole thing. And he's always wanted to have living spaces upstairs. And so I believe, I'm not sure, Ed might know, but I believe he's gotten approvals to have 1 dwelling unit upstairs. And he did it by way of, without doing a hydro study, without having to prove anything, by way of saying, I had this, I'm just switching it to here, you know, boom. So, and it was done, and no going back on that, but there are numerous other properties that could do the same thing.
Mhm.
And my personal opinion at this point is that these properties change hands. They're valuable pieces of property. They're probably going to be someone who has quite a bit of money and a vision. And even if a hydro study is $30,000, it's part of doing business. And I agree with Ed that it should be part of being able to change that use, is to prove it.
Right.
So anyway, long answer for I agree with Ed that I think it's something that I would encourage the board to address.
Yeah.
mhm.
Anybody else on thoughts on this?
No, I mean, I think it's right. It's a hole and it needs to get plugged.
Yeah.
It will be somewhat of an expensive thing because this is the kind of a thing where you actually have to print it numerous times in the paper, and you can't just print the change, you have to print more. I don't know why they do it that way, but I think if it's something that this board thinks that this is what we should do, I think that maybe our process for this is
Oh,
that we're
hey,
kicking
Ed.
these. Yes, Jim?
Go back to what you were just saying, where you have to print it multiple times. What do you mean by that?
In ordinance. I think
Oh,
it's
they're
the
changing the
ordinance.
ordinance. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yeah.
Right.
Not for us, not for us. This would be, we would be asking the board or suggesting to the
Right.
board that this be a change. We
Right.
have to understand that they want, if they're going to do this, they're going to want to change whatever they're going to want to change.
all at the same
Cost them a
time.
couple of
Right.
But I think what we'll do is we'll look at all of these different things, and then we will revisit them one more time to make sure that nobody else has talked about it with other people. You now have these kinds of numbers, and if you can talk to people, if they're your neighbors, and say, what do you think about this? This is what we're talking about. And then we will kick it on over to the board, because this is the kind of thing that they should be dealing with.
Do you,
Yeah.
Ed, as a long timer, do you expect this to be controversial since it has the potential to affect property values?
Yes. And also it's because it's Mendocino.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Change is bad is what you're saying, right?
I had the opportunity years ago on the review board to have PG&E take down the poles and the wires and deliver the electricity and your phone underground to your building. And all you had to do was go out there and flip it up. And it's like, how could that go wrong? I had a very dear, good friend come to me and say, how are we going to expect the birds to land if there's no wire? So
And
everything we do
woodpecker
has that
keep
possibility.
on the wires.
I don't know, trees, fences, buildings, they seem to be doing fine. But anyhow, my point is that there's always a possibility of a thing. But I think it should not deter us from protecting the groundwater. And that's what we're really talking about here. Because that's what really scares me, is that while we have all these regulations that we are living under, and we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do this, and we just left the back door open.
Yeah.
And now all of our neighbors on this side and this side and this side are going to be in trouble. You have to remember, we gave away a lot of people's water rights when we gave other people those rights. And I'm referring to buildings in town that were single family houses. They were historically a very nice old house. And they raised their hand in a meeting and said they wanted 5 units, and they were given 5 units by the county. And pretty soon there's a snowball effect of they have a vested interest and their neighbors don't. So to a degree, we've already allowed a lot of that to happen here because of the economy, and it is a good thing. But if we recognize something is not right, we really should point it out to the board of directors and let them take it. Okay.
Just a note on, addressing the ordinance and all the printing and stuff. If I recall, at our first meeting, when Maggie O'Rourke was on this committee, she was very concerned about addressing the rate structure.
Yes.
And if anything has changed on that, that's going to have to go through the whole ordinance thing too. So I think if changes are going to be made through an ordinance for the board, there's going to be more than one thing that's being addressed.
Right. And that's she can do that now.
Yeah. And I recall when we were on the board and we were doing that, we were trying to just get everything that we possibly could think of and needed to be addressed and updated to be done at that time, so that it all,
Just one swoop.
all in one fell swoop. Yes.
And the only other thing that I remember, good. Sorry.
So potentially then, Ed, if the board would take this on, then the rate structure for the sewer would potentially be open for discussion at that point, right?
Yes.
Or what? So Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But
Even though it's
that's,
not part of the ordinance per se, right?
I don't know how it attaches, to tell you the truth, but it's
Yeah.
in there somehow. And I don't know if it could be a part that you can move on a timely basis, a yearly basis, you know, I don't understand how that works. I don't know how one thing has to be reprinted and others can just be added. I'm not an expert on that.
Okay.
Okay,
There,
We have employees at the plant, supervisors and secretaries. We do have a secretary now, by the way, yeah? Question mark?
Question mark. We have someone who has accepted a job offer. They haven't started yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I look forward to the time when you, Ryan, can be simply a superintendent.
So do I.
Yeah, that you do. Okay, moving on, sorry.
okay, one other thing, we did previously talk about the question of could Mike Miley do a groundwater model situation for a possibility? And this was to do with the more of the land up. Could we separate parts and such like this without harming? This was not my idea. This was brought by Otto. And so I think that since a lot of these questions basically came from citizens, they should still be entertained. But that was basically a spend money. And so that's basically a board of directors decision if they want to spend money on a model to say that that section can be separated without harming or something. But so I just wanted to remind you that we have already discussed that being sent up to the board of directors. So that should make you go back into the minutes also. What else do we have?
you mean separating the zones? Is that what you're saying, Ned?
That was what
Yeah.
that was what was a request by Otto
Okay.
and those.
Yeah.
Their basic philosophy was their the use of their water did not affect the town. And
Well, I thought Mike Maley's presentation debunked that theory. And I didn't think we needed to go any further on that one.
I think that's fine. I think that should be coming from the board of directors. I don't know that everybody watched that and paid attention to it.
Yeah.
I didn't care if that water came into town. My point was, those people in that area are part of our district. And
Right.
our ordinance does not say that we're supposed to protect the downtown water. It says we're
Right.
supposed to protect the people of the district, wherever they are. So
Right.
that's where I got off the bus. But I think that it still is valid for the board of directors to pick up that and say how they want to see it. And if it's
Okay.
not, yeah. Did I miss anything? Did I miss anything that was newer or should be part of this discussion?
Well, I had just brought up at the last meeting, kind of the flip side of what we were just talking about with the change of use, the loophole. And that was just my realization that, for example, the Shell building, which is where Moody's was, and the Fiddleheads, there's the Tote Fat Bakery, a few retail stores, the toy shop and everything. Multi-use building that, as I pointed out, has a 3 higher water use tenants. And the tenants who own that business, I mean, the whole setup is made so that the property owner is the person with these water rights. And so a property that has these larger water rights has an advantage to getting their places rented. And what it does is for a business owner who wants to have a business in town, and I say this because Moody's was having a really hard time there and wanted to move elsewhere in town, but they couldn't do it because there was no other place that had that water allotment that they could do it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that's kind of unfortunate, but there is a difference between renters and owners. But it brings me back to that business is gone now from the building. The building was given the water usage standards because of those businesses. And the business is up for sale now. Is it going to sell and have all that massive water, or because the business moved out, is the building allowed to keep all that water allotment if it's not being used?
I think it does.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I think it does the
Yeah.
way things are set up now. So
Yeah,
my
right.
question is just that it creates a two-tiered system in town. I mean, it kind of has created a 1% of property owners who have, you know, this ability to do more high value, high square foot price to them rentals because they were granted the water, and they were only granted the water because, and it's not all of them, some businesses did do hydro studies, but you know, they lucked out. And
Right.
so I just thought it was worthy of discussion. If I don't know that there's anything the board can do about it, but it's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, and this really kind of goes to the like real long-term planning for the community of developing a water system that all would benefit from, and it would kind of even out the haves and have-nots, even though the whole community is kind of a have-not overall for water resources. So it kind of takes you back to, well, where do we find the water? But that would be the way to even the playing field, would be starting to develop a water system.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree with you that ultimately that is the best,
Yeah.
final space. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to have a coffee shop down on the lower end of Main Street, so you didn't have to hike all the way back up to Lansing Street to get a cup of coffee?
yeah.
I think that if my memory serves correctly, and I could be off by one or two, only two places that have food or any kind of food service did a water study. And that was Patterson's and Harvest Market.
Wow.
Frankie's did not. Mendocino Cafe did not.
Cafe didn't,
Cafe Beaujolais did not. They were all existing before.
right?
And
Hello?
we really have to remember the one thing we could not do is we could not walk in and say we're going to start controlling groundwater and say, oh, you don't have any and you're out of business. So we really we really had no choice. Where we could have done better was with expansion, and some restaurants are
With what? Expansion?
expansion.
Okay.
Yeah, we did not do well on some. Some of them they expanded with a very little. Frankie's was not a restaurant. Frankie's was the bakery for the Seagull Inn, and now it became a separate. The Garden Cafe was the same thing. Garden Bakery. They were the bakery for the front restaurant, and now they are two separate things. So, to a degree, we have accommodated as much as we possibly can within the given and the small amount of percentages.
Well,
but I hear what you're saying. Like, the restaurants we have are the restaurants we're going to have until we have a water.
Well, and you know, I just wonder, you know, how much energy, you know, this will take, you know, for the board to go through, you know, filling this loophole, where it might be, you know, better served for the community to start going down that path of trying to figure out how to develop a water system for the
Right.
community.
Yeah, I don't think the board of directors can change. I don't think they can create more water in the ground.
No,
People can prove it. There might be a couple of places in town that can prove it. And when you prove the water and you didn't take it from your neighbors, you're in. But the gifted ones, I don't think we can change that. And I think when you're looking at a water source, I mean, a water system, I think the first thing you want to do is look at for a source.
right?
And the first thing you want to do if you're looking for a source is look at the studies that were already done.
Yep. Yep.
And that will depress you.
Right.
Because when you start looking away from the peninsula, you start thinking Owens Valley. And
well, and then you start thinking about communities like Cambria, same size community as here basically, and they've been going down the road of desalinization, and that's just a nightmare.
yeah. You
So,
can kind of burn dollars underneath the teapot and then get some water, but
yeah,
that's expensive. We had a fellow come in and talk to us about that. It was real interesting.
I bet.
But you really have to. Santa Barbara is a very wealthy community, and Santa Barbara built a huge desalination plant down on the just outside of Summerlin, and it just sat there because they couldn't afford to turn it on. They could afford to build it. They couldn't afford to turn it on. They forgot to ask, how much does it cost a day? Yeah, so they drilled a hole through the mountain. What else we got? Any other things? Okay.
Hey, Ryan,
Yes, Jim.
what do you think about this group talking about the notification process for going from stage to stage? Do you think we should touch on that? I'm just kind of asking there.
You're welcome. You're welcome to discuss it. Sure. I mean, it's a part of the ordinance. It's
Yeah.
off limits.
Okay. Well, when we were looking at the situation that we're basically still in, you know, thinking that, you know, based on what our readings were going to be coming in at the end of the year here, going from one stage to another, if you go strictly by the verbiage in the ordinance, it seems that every homeowner in town has to be notified by registered mail. And that seems a little extreme to me, that, you know, every homeowner to be told what their allotment would be by registered mail, so or certified mail. It seems to me that it would be adequate just to notify them by mail, or, you know, posting it on, you know, the agency's or the district's website would be sufficient. But that might be something that we discuss as maybe something that we could look at, or the board could look at, to see if since we're going to potentially be opening up the ordinances again to make these changes, that might be something else that could be done.
And on that, Jim, while it does seem a little excessive to have to do registered mail to notify people of a water shortage condition, as the attorneys pointed out to me, that clause is in there to protect the district, not the consumers of the district. And it really only becomes an issue when we start to work on enforcement.
Right.
You know, we're starting at first by informing everyone of the stage we're in, and asking essentially for voluntary cooperation, even though it is required. And then when we move to the next stage of enforcement, then somebody says, well, I didn't get the first letter.
Right.
Okay, now you're getting a registered letter. Now you've been informed. Get with the program.
Right.
But I do agree with you that I think while it is in there to protect the district, it's a little extreme and shouldn't necessarily be required.
Mhm.
Well, it's as much as it's there to protect the district from somebody, it's also to protect the neighbors of the person who's not following the rules. But my thought on if we are going to proactively send something by United States mail, I think that we should, instead of assuming that the person will look at the MCCSD's website, we should proactively send them an email. And so, because some people maybe not, that's how they read, that's how they get their information. And truthfully, I don't think I've been on their website for years. So maybe that would do enough. You know, we sent you a letter, we sent you an email, and now we've noticed on your reports that you're still not staying within your new allotment. We're going to call you. And I think that then and only then should you actually spend extra money and do something.
So an editorial comment about the website. I mean, I do my meter reading, and the last two things, I go to Google and I put in MCCSD, and it comes up with a little panel, you know, that says, here's the number to call and everything else. And the website, you press the button that says website, it says can't get there. It doesn't automatically go to the website.
Oh.
There must be one or two or three websites with the same something.
There are a few there's some schools and some other areas with MCCSD.
Yeah.
Our website was recently redone within the last 3 months by our webmaster to a more modern platform.
But you can't get to it. It's not the website itself. It's the panel. When you go into Google, try it. Go into Google.
It's from the Google link on the right-hand side.
On the right-hand side, it says website. I did it yesterday.
Which I think has to do with, we haven't necessarily claimed ownership of the website through Google. But if you type in mccsd.com, it will go there.
I understand that, but all I'm saying is a lot of people do what I have done 3 times, and I learned that it's the wrong thing to do. There's a little panel comes up, says this is the website. It's got all your name and address on it. This is the website. Press this button to get to the website. You don't get there.
Okay.
So
I'll see what can be improved upon there.
That is definitely a problem. You can't get there. I do, but I keep forgetting how.
How about if we just to make sure that we follow up on that concept of send along with everything else that we're doing to the board of directors, this concept of how much it's going to cost us to change the allotments of people because of the different drought stages.
Uh-oh, Ed left.
Yeah, it's because I'm charging my phone at the same time.
Your iPad is still here if he's gone.
And Ryan,
Ed turned into a white head.
Ryan, can you please let the committee know how much it would cost to do that every time if you sent out certified notices?
Well, registered mail, which is what the typing says, is approximately $12.50 a letter.
Oh,
And we have, over 400 accounts in town, and the letters need to be sent both to the property owners and the actual users, who are often renters and tenants. So it could be as many as 600 letters in a mailing. So yeah, 600 at $12.50 a pop. You're looking at a pretty expensive mailing.
Yeah. This is
that really is not necessary. You know, regular mail does reach most people just fine.
$7,500.
Yeah, and that was kind of my point, you know, yeah, sure, it's protecting the district, but is there a better way to
Right.
Well,
do that?
certified mail is a lot cheaper. It's about $1.60, I believe. And that is, or it's either $1.60 or $3.60. I can't recall exactly, but that is a form of registered mail. But even so, it's a very time-consuming process to fill out these little certified
Yeah.
letter cards, and
Yeah.
it's labor-intensive and an unnecessary expense, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah, agreed.
Save it for the troublemakers.
Exactly.
right. And is that a possibility, just being able to save it for the troublemakers, but then does that put the district then in a legal quandary as far as, is that following the ordinance?
It would be a question for our legal counsel.
And again, maybe there could be a better wording of the ordinance to just target those that are not following per blah, blah, blah. You know, then do the certified for those that are not, you know, following the rule or
Yeah.
Right.
the mandate.
I think that's an excellent thing to push up the chain of
Yeah.
command to the board of directors.
But put another step in the process, is really what you just said,
Yeah.
before you get to the registered.
Yeah.
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 Because you obviously are doing the registered letter to get to the next stage in the process. So put another one before that. Maybe that's a good suggestion.
I think that might do it. What else we got? Okay,
Nothing from
I
me.
have about 5% left, so I'm going to, unless we have anything else, we will discuss these one more time and hand it on to the board of directors as far as I'm concerned. And anybody else has any other ones in between now and then, we can discuss them. So send them to Ryan and we will see what we can do. Sound good?
Great.
All right.
Good.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a very good time, guys. Take
All
care.
right.
New
Bye-bye.
Year.
There he is.
Dreams.